Sorry about the microphone. So when I say nation building, one should confuse that with the government or the industry. It is all in one whole of nation approach that we're talking about. We're not working in silos. So one is that how these institutions are part of nation building, and the second one and more important one is to kindle that kind of interest, especially among the young school-going, college-going population, so that they take up science. And even if they don't take up science, the idea is to speak about so many fascinations that science brings to you, right? A lot of us use technology without understanding the science behind it. Most. So globally, there's the top 1% that understands any technology truly while using. And the top 1% of that 1% is the one that's creating the technology. And all technology is applied, right? So it all has science in the background. Like you use a mixer at home. It's the same thing that, the science behind it is more or less similar to what Shubhanshu Shukla or Papa Nair do across here. Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, one of the things you said, Chetan, is that how do you really take it to young people? I mean, there is a huge youth dividend that we have in our country, and how do we really tap that and make it work? I mean, so many students we interact with are very, very eager to join the scientific, journey. But how do they really understand the relevance of it all, and how do they really take it up, where it's not only something that they're going to study and make it good for their career, but also enjoy it while they learn? So, Abhinavji.
See, I come from the Week magazine, which is a general interest magazine. For general interest magazine, first of all, the aim is to simplify things. Basically, that's why, although we have a lot of information, scientific information available, it is very, very technical in some manner. So, the scientific information, many of the people, general people don't understand what really means. I was in some interaction with some students, and many of them didn't even know what a space station means. So they didn't even know. Even some engineering students also, they didn't know what a space station. So basically the aim is to de-jargonize, to make it more simple for students, for the larger general community. And how you can make it as a media is very, very important. How basically we can simplify things so that they understand and try to emulate, for example, docking. For example, two cars are running in space docking, for example. How you relate that to common things on the Earth. For example, two cars running at the same speed and just trying to create a linkage between those two cars at the same speed. That is what is happening in the space docking. So if you try to familiarize things in such a manner, and for example, a rocket. Many people know it's a PSLV rocket. They just don't know what kind of payloads go on top of it. But if you try to simplify things, like these are the payloads, how it is important for the scientific community and the student community, then I think so the popularity of such kind of reporting, science reporting, students will come to know, general public will come to know how important and relevant it is.
I know, and we're also talking about within the scientific community. Mr. G. Mahesh has not been able to join. Had he been here, then we would have really sought his views on this. But talking about some of the practical scenario, Chetan, how would you really look at it? We are talking about simplifying science, but what really happens, let's say at a news desk? Take us through that, in the sense that sometimes we feel that it was such an important project one did, but it did not really get so much to the masses because the media could not take it up so well that was desired. So where is that again, the gap that one can fill? You have a mic or not? Please give him the mic.
So two things there. One, media taking it up or the lack of it, and what happens at the news desk. So it's not just science copies that fall through the cracks on any given day. Because just like everything else in the world, there are constraints in producing a newspaper. Space is a major constraint. So a lot of variables play in deciding what becomes part of a newspaper in tonight's edition and what can be held over for the next day and what needs to be dropped altogether. and they're not always a commentary on how good or bad the development is. Sometimes there are just so many things happening around the world that you will have to make that hard choice to say that whether or not we're able to cover this particular project or whether we should postpone it. And so far as simplification of science for the audiences is concerned, I think I find that there is a lot of mind block against science. It's not that science is always complicated. Even when you simplify, there is this mind block. People understand all the words in the sentence. I'll give you an instance. We were talking somewhere at a cafe. So we were talking about, and one of my friends, from the IT sector, is complaining about to the stewardess that the coffee was not in the right temperature. Okay, and another colleague of mine, not a colleague, a friend who works in the corporate, he was talking about how he is most efficient, when the deadline is very close. And they were talking about all of these things. So I thought maybe I should do a dipstick study and find out. So they understand temperature, they understand efficiency, they understand protection, but you put all of this together and talk about a satellite and say, for the satellite to achieve the right kind of thermal protection, what are the things that have to work efficiently? The minute you say that, they say this is all very complex, I don't want to talk about it. So it's not that, I think there's a mind block in understanding science, and they don't want to make that effort. And as one of the flaws that I see in mass communication of science on social media or anywhere else is this over reliance on trying to drive home the application of something. And the science gets lost there. So people are not learning what is enabling. So if you want to see how the Tejas flies, you have to go back to 1983 when Professor Narasimha, who's not with us anymore sadly, wrote the first proposal of how you will make it using composites. And that was a part of science that India didn't understand at that time. And building something from there to having something that flies. So that science is the one that must be communicated, and that is the endeavor that we are in. At least I am trying to do that. And that, I think, will have a long-term effect on the audiences. They will understand that there is no engineering without science. You can't build a satellite without understanding science. Without mathematics and physics, there is no space program. There is no aircraft that flies. There is no mixer grinder that runs at home.
That we need the right mix, and for that exactly and precisely that we need experts, science communicators who know their job, and more of them. How do you think we reach that level?
See, basically, first of all, most important thing is that scientific community needs to come out. They can't work in silos, and they need to come out and communicate better with the media. And also come up, if there is some interesting project, they should come out openly and try to showcase their expertise in front of the media and not keep on working. Of course, some things are classified. They cannot be, of course, made public. But those things which can be made public, and how that invention or that innovation is going to help the common man, or basically what benefits it will have for the larger society. Those kind of things, I think, so should be highlighted by those innovations, and the scientist community should come together and try to showcase this in a very, very simplified manner. Of course, simplified means I am trying to stress on that because the landing of Chandrayaan-3 was one of the most sought after. Everyone actually, the country, everyone witnessed the landing. So it was popularized so much that India is trying to attempt it for the first time. But that popularization, that's why everyone stopped there, and then they watched on televisions, they watched on social media, the kind of appreciation which that Chandrayaan.
So I think space lately has been getting a lot of attention.
Yes.
And our Honorable Minister always says that space is getting a lot of space even within media and the different platforms.
Of course, and Subhanshu Shukla, I had interviewed him for the cover story. So he was saying he wants to outreach maximum number of people, and how he's himself trying to, basically because he's getting questions about how from students that they also want to become an astronaut like him. So that is basically the reach and outreach he was himself trying to create, and to reach maximum number of people that no, it's not very difficult to become. You can become. So that is the power of media actually, how you can popularize things and how you can reach to the masses.
Tools. I mean, we are seeing much on social media?
Of course,
as-
social media is one of them, but I think so the larger, the popular newspapers, the popular magazines, the popular electronic media, all of them actually, they have to take interest also in showcasing these scientific things in a very, very, so that they can reach the masses in a very, very simplified manner, then masses will also have interest in it. But if you say, see what important it is what we should not showcase what the writer or the journalist likes. We should showcase what the reader wants, basically what the larger student community wants or larger general public wants.
That you're saying also from the media perspective, but
Yes,
let's
ma'am.
see it from the perspective of scientists.
Yes.
A lot of eminent scientists and very seniors are here. How does it happen that the essence of science, as you were saying, Chetan, also, and which is so important, which is so serious, how do we really translate it well? That's exactly why we are talking about it, to the audience, that it reaches out, does not lose its flavor, but also carries home the message which is needed to be understood.
No, there's a very simple solution to that. See, most research happens in English. So he was exaggerating, obviously. But the trick, what I took back home from that is, see, whether you take traditional media or influencers or people who use social media or the general administrative service people or politicians, not everybody comes from a science background. So it may be difficult for them to grasp sometimes what scientists believe are even simple principles of subjects that they're dealing with. They've done work for 2 decades on it. So it is very simple to them. But the flip side is easier to be done. Scientists can speak in simple tongue. They already know English. So the onus shouldn't be on the other side to learn science. So if science has to be translated effectively, it has to come from the lab. And there have been great mentors over the years, people who took time to help us understand things. So one of them that I should name, I've named one already, Professor Udam Narasimha. The other one that I should name is Professor U.R. Rao. He's had a 2-hour-long chats with me in 2016 about how a satellite will reach the Lagrange point to understand the sun and what are India's plans, but the science part of it. So eventually when that took off in 2023 towards the end, I was in a great position to Sir Narasimha. Or how any industry works, there's also a commerce aspect to it, right? Like if you've been in broadcast, you would understand that as good or important as something might be, and if you've been making efforts, if it's too much of effort for you to just get access to even a small detail,
I get your point.
yeah, and we're not talking about missions that are critical.
I think, no, what you're saying, I'll take it ahead in terms of we need to have more conversations, we need to have more dialogue, we need to talk a lot about what we have in mind, what is our vision, what we are trying to convey. So I'm talking about, we are at RISE and we're talking about research, industry, startup and entrepreneurship all coming together. That's where the convergence matters. And we need to explain what is it that we are doing, what is it that we are trying to do, what is our vision. And that's where I think this whole gap also gets a little addressed. He's talking about access, yes, access with more understanding and with more, in a limited manner maybe, but there has to be, I think, more room and more window to talk about things. Sometimes we think that, why talk so much? Let's be silent because why things should go out much. But I think opening the room, the window, the doors is very, very important. And these conversations and dialogues will go a long way in clearing things and not making science look like a big elephant, but also make it very simple for everyone to not only understand, but work on, the particular, aspect of it all. What would you say?
Yeah, as I've already said, that basically these seminars and all should not be kind of a B2B, kind of a closed door kind of events. Basically, it's restricted only to the scientific community. The information should be...
Not everything
conveyed.
can be told, though.
Yes. Basically, the thing is that more and more innovations will be discussed in such kind of seminars and such kind of events. So that it should be popularized. Basically, the innovations and the invention should be popularized in a very, very large manner through the social media, and it should also be like a lot more popularity should be there of such events, that such kind of an event is happening. And
I'll just
Yes.
come in here for a while, and I can't resist talking about this because we have just come back from the Jammu and Kashmir region, especially a place called Bhadarwa, where Lavender Festival was held recently. And this whole lavender farming is something that is like a case study, because how Triple M Jammu has given R&D scientific support, and it has converted into everyone again coming together. There are songs about it, and there are things being written. And there are a lot of people, even common people I saw there, are taking interest because they're understanding. So these kind of things where you actually make it very enjoyable in terms of everyone to understand also, and create some kind of, not only events, I would say, but, the programs as such, which links more comfortably with each other.
I personally feel that such kind of like local element should also be, attempt should be made to popularize them to the masses, not only restricted to certain regions, but such kind of things should also be popularized at the national level as well. Basically, such kind of event should have people from different regions also coming in and trying to showcase their inventions, so that people in Bangalore may not be knowing what is really happening in Jammu and Kashmir, or only the scientific community, certain people will be knowing here. So if such kind of things are popularized at the national level or at the international level, and such kind of localized elements which can have a larger repercussions or a larger effect on the masses, so it can have a larger influence on them, should be encouraged. Such kind of things, I think so the Science and Technology Ministry can play a very important role.
I've been watching, and I can tell you I've been a part of it, and passion is very important, first of all, and it should also be like a creative learning and sharing. I think that element should also come in. But taking it from there, the whole aspect of AI, we were in AI Summit in Delhi as well. How AI is making a difference, Chetan?
See, again, AI is another technology that 99.5, if not more, % of people are using without understanding the core architecture or the code or any one of those things. LLMs have become the most popular part of AI, and I think some terms catch on at a specific time in the evolution of technology. But AI has existed for decades, until somebody in Silicon Valley decided to call something a startup. It's not that startups didn't exist. HL is a startup, and so was Reliance. So with AI, the thing, to answer your question, LLMs have become very popular, and they're being used across people from across walks of life. Students are using it to write their assignments. But I've been dealing with understanding AI for the last 6 months. Some research work about how AI operates behind those computer screens and what kind of impact it's having. One is outsourcing your cognition is not really a great thing. One shouldn't use the tool without understanding, and one shouldn't outsource your ability to think. In fact, just last week there's a paper that's dropped. I've been reading it. I'm halfway through it. I will report on it sometime in the next couple of days. Researchers from more than a dozen renowned universities from across the globe, 30 of them, have put together this paper where they feel that AI is slowly taking away the ability for you to think, because you're in that loop of using AI to generate ideas, to create a proposal, then to try and execute it. And once the critical thinking sort of goes and you're in that loop, and by the time you realize that it might be too late, you might have lost, like Hercule Poirot from Agatha Christie would say, the little grey cells, that have to work. So the dangers.
One of the elements. Not
No,
the
I'm
full.
saying before everybody starts catching on with new technology, right? People often feel that if you don't embrace something new, you will be branded as outdated, you will be branded as somebody who doesn't understand science. I don't think so. I think before everybody starts shouting out that, AI will change our world and all of that, which it will. I'm not denying that, the powers of AI. But I think there must be enough effort made, and especially from academic institutions and governments to tell people how AI works and what you must use and what you should not use, right? This is not fear-mongering like when computers were being introduced, saying that, you'll lose all your jobs. I'm not talking about that. The science behind AI has to be understood. You need to understand the kind of neuroplasticity effects that it will have. If you don't get into those things, then, like they say, any technology is as good as the person who uses it.
So there have to be other methods. I would say storytelling, for example. The creative methods and new ways of outreach would also matter. Would you have some ideas?
Yeah, actually, storytelling will be very interesting. I did one story on making of an astronaut, which I interacted with a lot of international NASA astronauts who had been to the space. So basically trying to humanize those experiences. How tough was it on the astronaut, or what kind of training they went off, and basically the underwater kind of isolation and all they went, and how was their experiences and all. If storytelling in a very simplified way, in trying to bring in personal experiences of, for example, as you said, space is having a lot of popularity, it's getting a lot of popularity, but then also you should bring in such kind of elements, like interesting elements, like how was the experience, or some experienced person who has himself or herself trained as an astronaut. So, and also the kind of challenges they underwent and how they were selected when the kind of basically the selection procedure they underwent. And also even if you are an astronaut, it takes many years before you actually see a flight. Many of them keep on waiting for 5 years, 10 years and all. They are in the waiting. So basically, how was that experience? How was the waiting experience? And what kind of toll, mental health toll? Basically, every day you are thinking that you will be on the next flight. So those kind of things, if you put it in a very, very simplified manner, as again, the science is nothing but if you de-jargonize it, again and again I'm saying, that, and put it in a very kind of a story kind of a thing, where people understand it much better, that will really have a wider impact.
So just to add quickly, I think comics make for a great medium.
Animation, comics, these are the things. And I think other tools, and I would name it. For example, we are there already much on social media, but there has to be blogs, vlogs, there are podcasts. People are, on TV, small videos, the shots, the reels. Shorts. All these things should not only be given to that, okay, one person does it in my office and that's the solution. I think we all have to understand that if we open a little bit, talk about it, make it simpler, and be eager to tell a lot of people, to the humanity in particular, then that will really go a long way. Because science is not only something which is about knowing the technical stuff, but it also has great service to humanity, the empathy part of it. But I would also add here that I've seen things like talking about young students. We saw a program like Jigyasa, for example. We have seen such brilliant young innovators who talk about innovation, and they're so eager. We are being told also every time that, even in rural areas, in tier 2, 3 cities, some of these young girls, students, they are so eager to do things. It's just that I think we need to really make it broader. And we think that this should not only be limited by the scientists and for the scientists, it's for all. That's what we have to understand, and that's why this integration is important, the convergence is important, and we are gathered here today. I think this is a subject that I can go on, and I don't want to really now take it much longer in terms of time. We have a full day to address. But do we have questions coming in also, or do we wrap up? Okay. So we'll have to wrap it up here, looking forward to the entire day and the sessions, which are going to be very productive and meaningful. Thankful to, again, CSIR, and the entire fraternity here, and also our seniors here. Again, NAL, CFTRI, and 4PI, and all the directors here. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chetan and Abhinav, for being a part of it.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Madam. I thank all our esteemed panelists for their valuable presence and for this enriching session. Just a second.
Namaskara. Good afternoon to all of you. Almost we are in the good afternoon stage. A warm welcome to all the distinguished guests, speakers, delegates, participants, and students present here today. For this next session, I request Dr. Abhay Pashilkar, Director, CSRNL, Mr. M. Shankaran, Director, UR Rao Satellite Center, Mr. Rajiv Rao, General Manager and Head at Tata Advanced Systems Limited, and Mr. Darshan Shantamurthy, Founder and CEO at CISA, to please come over to the dais and occupy their seats. Good morning. Please come. Thank you, sir. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all for this panel discussion on the theme Aerospace Technologies for Growth, Spotlight on Academia, R&D Labs, and Industry Collaboration for Solving Industrial Challenges in Aerospace. In today's rapidly evolving technological landscape, no single organization can innovate in isolation. Meaningful collaboration between academia, R&D institutions, and industry is essential for translating the ideas into impactful solutions and to address the emerging industrial challenges. To explore these opportunities and challenges, today's panel brings together eminent leaders from national laboratories, space sectors, global aerospace industry. They share their perspectives on how collaborative partnerships can accelerate India's aerospace growth. We are delighted to have Mr. Darshan Shantamurthy, CEO and founder of CISA, as the moderator for this session. Just a brief introduction about Mr. Darshan Shantamurthy. He is the founder and CEO of CISA, a global cybersecurity company dedicated to securing digital payment ecosystem. With over 2 decades of experience in cybersecurity and payment security, he is a recognized expert in protecting critical digital infrastructure from evolving cyber threats. A Software Engineering Institute authorized trainer, certified PCI qualified security assessor, and holder of multiple cybersecurity certifications, he has contributed to the development of payment security standards and has volunteered for national digital initiatives such as Aadhaar, and UPI. A strong advocate of continuous learning and innovation, Mr. Darshan is committed to making the digital world safer and more reliant. Sir, we are honored to have you with us today. Welcome. Now I would like to introduce our distinguished panel speakers. It's my privilege to introduce our own director, Dr. Abhay Pashilkar. Dr. Pashilkar is a distinguished aerospace scientist with extensive experience in aerospace systems, flight mechanics, and unmanned aerial vehicles. Welcome, sir, to the panel. Mr. M. Sankaran, Director of URF Satellite Center, ISRO. He has vast experience in satellite system, spacecraft technologies, and India space missions. Welcome, sir. Joining him on the panel is Mr. Rajiv Rao, General Manager and Head at Tata Advanced Systems Limited. He has rich experience in aerospace manufacturing, systems engineering, and industrial collaboration. Welcome to you too, sir. Once again, I extend a warm welcome to all the panelists. Before we commence the panel discussion, I request Mr. Darshan Shantamurthy to share his experience at CISA and set the ball rolling for the panel discussion. So please.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Good morning, distinguished panelists, distinguished audience from all the government sector, fellow industrialists, and students who are there, and of course our friends from the media. A very good morning to all of you. It's indeed a great pleasure for someone who's grown up in this area to be part of this August gathering. As I grew up in the roads of Indranagar, I have been at the pleasure of being at the backyards of NAL and DRDO, and I've always aspired and fondly cherished the scientists who really have made India proud. So I'm really, really delighted to be between all of you, and it's a dream come true for me personally. I basically started a cybersecurity company way back in 2006 with the real mission of actually transforming the Indian digital payment landscape. Little did I know that it would go on to be such a big transformation that today a street vendor on the road can take UPI payments, and I've been honored to be part of that transformation. And that would not have happened without the great R&D focus for all at the company and, of course, the government, and with NPCI making such transformative things. And today, I kind of come from the other side of the house, the digital payment infrastructure, and I have great panelists here and want to take a leaf from them as to what we could do differently in our space, but also share some of the things that we have seen as we transform. As today, India does about 46% of the world's digital payment transactions. And as you know, we have done it all indigenously. Our payments infrastructure is one of the finest in the world, and we have done that all from India, and no other system we have, least to say, of course, we've been inspired by many, but we have built it on our own. And that has been through an active collaboration with research, with industry, and of course, the academia to a certain extent contributing. So I am here to learn that and also share whatever I have learned. And of course, as a company which is into cybersecurity, aerospace and space and defense is very close to our heart. We also work with the Government of India for those of you who want to see our reports. We published with, it's on CERT website, Computer Emergency Response Team of India. We published our digital threat report, which is one of its kind, where public-private partnership has created something so seminal that the world is looking at it today. And I would strongly encourage you to have a look at it. And India was the first country to have this kind of partnership where a government entity which is of such importance came together and partnered with a private enterprise like CISA, which is a global enterprise which tracks digital payment ecosystem threats globally, and we combinedly prepare a report, which has now become one of the landmark reports in the globe for digital payment security. So would highly encourage all of you to go through that. And I'm once again very honored to be part of this panel and looking forward to having a great conversation. Thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah. All right. Excellent. I think this mic is not on. Yes, perfect. All right. So I would start, by opening the floor by asking, what are your thoughts about, industry academic partnership, and how could that scale, and what is the success stories that you have seen, and what are the things that we can learn? And probably we can take a few 2 minutes from each of the panelists for opening remarks on that subject. Yeah.
Thank you. The three entities what you mentioned, that academia, business and research laboratories, by very nature, at least in our country, their targets and end goals are actually completely different. The business or the industry is always looking for what makes profit, and rightly so. And academia always looks for publications and impact factor increase. And in India, at least, we have not crossed beyond that, and we are there. Whereas research labs are given a task and they are trying to complete it without worrying too much about what is the outcome from that, how it is going to get monetized. These things are not done. Now the trick is to find some common ground between these three entities. Unless we do that, this is going to be like the five blind men looking at the elephant. Like that only it is going to happen. And successfully, I can see that in Europe and US, this common ground has been found, and they are able to move forward on this. And the challenge in front of us for all the three sectors, that is the industry, academia, as well as research labs, is that we find a common ground now. It is very easy to tell that we find the common ground, but it is very difficult because of the unique challenges we have within our country. Since most of the research laboratories are controlled and funded by Government of India, there are set of rules which define what can be done, what cannot be done. Similarly, the academia is more into teaching and building up the repertoire of the publications, but how to make them into patents, how to make them, monetize them, and based on that outcome, carry forward further research. This is yet to happen. Whereas the amount of money that needs to be invested in research and the time it takes to get the returns is what is holding back the industry. So this is a problem that is at hand. We need to find some solution for this, and I hope that events like this will enable people to think in that direction beyond the areas of their own work.
Yeah, very beautifully put, and maybe Mr. Rajiva Rao, if you want to actually add your comments, especially since you are from the private sector and work closely with the government, your thoughts on how that can happen from the private sector, right? And how can we contribute and have those synergies?
First of all, very good morning to everyone. It's been an honor to share the dais with such distinguished guests here. Thank you for that. I can say from industry, we work with academies and also with R&D labs. So the best example on the R&D labs is how we have industrialized the LCA program, working with CSIR and NAL. That's a huge thing to happen for TASL because the LCA aircraft, so we are making the major parts which has happened because of the technology transfer, and we are working closely with NAL for making the composite parts. So I'll just come to that later stage, but coming to the academy, we also work with institutions like IITs and some reputed colleges also, where they're also into some working with advanced technologies like simulations and some, the process simulations, digital twins, those kind of things. We also engage with young engineers from the college, and we also offer them internship. So it is like they are also pursuing their development in terms of doing their thesis and understanding about that, and they can also use our industry facilities and the technology that we have. So it's a close collaboration, and we also take them as graduate trainees, and if they are interested over a period of time, depending upon the vacancy, they also get absorbed. So in that way, the technology comes from youngsters into the industry. And coming back to the R&D lab, as I mentioned, so we have been we worked closely with them for the development of these composite parts for the LCA, where the co-curing technology that was transferred, the knowledge was transferred from them, and now we are able to industrialize these parts, and we are moved from the development mode to the production mode.
Sure.
For the we are working currently on the Marconi program.
Yeah,
that's the collaboration we have had.
Absolutely, and one of the key things that has worked is this intern to hire program. Even in cybersecurity, we see that working brilliantly well. Sir, Dr. Abhay Pashilkar, your thoughts, I think Mr. Shankaran brought out very valid points. Your comments on how that silos can be broken.
I think Dr. Shankaran already brought out the fundamental challenge that R&D institutions, what is our DNA or what is our, shall we say, intent when we work, as opposed to industry which wants solutions which can be monetized at scale. So there is always going to be some kind of bridge which has to be crossed. And I'm glad Mr. Rao mentioned about how we did it for the LCA Tejas, for example. But I thought the challenge also for research institution is essentially taking off from the previous session. It's all about communication. We are sitting here and trying to communicate to you the challenges, but it's not just communicating to you who are somewhat already a conditioned audience, but also communicate at large to the public and to the stakeholders up and down the value chain. So even to our Honorable Minister, we need to figure out how we communicate our challenges, how we figure out models of working, and to the general public, how we essentially make them understand the significance or importance of what we are doing and why that kind of sustained funding or support is required and mandatory. But apart from that, I would just say that what the skill that as R&D institutions we need to understand or sharpen is really risk management. Because R&D, there is no guarantee of success. You will probably, if you are really good at it, or if you have really managed the risk well, you will be largely successful, as ISRO has shown consistently. And you may as well fail, because sometimes, if you knew everything, then that is not research, right? I mean, the whole idea is you are venturing out in a technical area where not everything is known, and that is research. That is how research institutions work. That is how everybody does research. And there is always the chance that there is new knowledge which you discover, which tells you that what you thought initially is not possible or may have to be modified. And that, in a sense, is a challenge for public-funded institutions, because we are accountable. So if you take the principle of accountability, you said you will do this thing in this much time with this much funds. So what happened? So because it's public funds, it's not personal funds. Industry, on the other hand, has great deal of freedom, But then again, they have the challenge of how to find out something for which they can get return on investment. So they are configured to look at return on investment. We are configured to look at new things, new developments. And an aspiring nation like us obviously wants to be among the leading nations in terms of innovation. So we have to figure out that, which means it brings us to essentially new ways of working. We need to harness the energy of the startups, the speed of the industry, with the stamina that institutions, R&D institutions funded by government bring, because we are there in it for the long run. And of course, we look at deep technical things, but then ultimately a business angle has to be brought in. So the startup ecosystem, if we do not have incubators, for example, then that becomes a challenge for us as well. So all of these things, which is essentially the ecosystem that we are talking about, has to come together, and we have to figure out how to work with all the elements of that. And to your opening remarks, I would say digitization is going to be a key. When we talk of collaboration, you will essentially, we have now new modes of communication or collaboration. We need not be physically in the same place for us to talk to each other. We can do it online, for example. Those modes COVID has really popularized and taught us. We also have product life cycle development and many other tools which have come. So believe me, it's not just communication to you, to people above us, to our honorable ministers, to all the way to our Prime Minister, who happens to be President of the Society of CSIR, and also overall leader for all of the activities in this country, but also communication among ourselves, our own teams who are working together to form a product or create a new, or to realize a new idea. So believe me, communicating among each other is equally important, among the different specializations which come together to create a product. So broadly, I would say communication is key. Digitization is a very enabling element of it. And as a country, we need to invest in all those things. And I think compared to maybe 30, 40 years back, we talked about Professor Narasimha, who was such a dramatic and large influence on not only aeronautics, but space as well. He was a spokesman for all of us. So in that sense, today the ecosystem is far much well developed. You have testimonial from our partners. And so therefore for us, we need to figure out to work in areas which are our strength, need not have to do everything ourselves. We have to leverage the ecosystem which is already there. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Fantastic. That's a brilliant perspective, Dr. Rabhai Bashankar, because at the end of the day, I like that statement. If it is, if the success is known, then it's not an R&D project. Yeah, and that's what we always embark. And I think, at least from an outsider standpoint, ISRO is known for that, right? I'm sure that when you launch a project, you obviously don't know the outcome. So, you spoke about, Mr. Shankaran, about, about how we can transcend those. And I note that the in-space project, which ISRO has started, is one such platform where you are allowing private sector to leverage some of the infrastructure and scale which government brings in. So, any thoughts? Are we going the right direction? Your thoughts on that, Mr. Shankaran?
Actually, InSpace is doing an excellent job. But the problem is not that whether InSpace or Department of Space or government, whether it is doing a right job, whether the rest of the ecosystem is picking it up right. That is where the question needs to be addressed. Actually, InSpace is now supporting the industry startup by giving technology adoption fund or even funding without actually a guarantee of the performance, developing space systems from these startups so that this ecosystem can get built in India. But the problem what we see is that most of these industries who have taken up these activities are all knocking at the wrong doors. For example, in the space sector, if you see, the business volume in manufacturing of satellites and launch vehicle is globally is less than 7% of the total business. In India, it is about 15% because rest of the area business is lesser. That is why in India, the satellite and launch vehicle share of the business is about 15%, whereas globally it is 7%. Whereas there is a huge amount of 93% of the area where out of the lakh crore worth business, the remaining 93% is lying and there are hardly any takers. There are few companies, there are hardly any takers, where maximum money is there. So what we are looking at is either people are falling for the glamour, anyways, anything related and delivering the services using these. But to even take up that kind of, the industry is not taking up these activities. Obviously, they are going to invest. And all these industries are all very well controlled by the already existing players. For example, India is today considered to be a giant in software technologies. But do you know how many operating systems India has made? How many application softwares India has made? How many technical analysis and TCATs has been made, MCATs have been made by India? The number will be very easy to be counted with the fingers in my hand. Why it is not happening? Because generally these are all tied with the hardware and the other systems. So there is going to be a entry barrier for anybody else to get involved by the already entrenched players. This is the area that needs to be broken. With the help of the government of India, this is where, so if you are the companies who are building things which can be realized in large scales and utilized in large scales, if they come up with a new product, I think the government of India is definitely going to enable that. Problem is that the initial 3, 4 years, 5 years, the investment in the development and wait for the return. That is what needs to be looked at.
Absolutely, a very valid point. In fact, in cybersecurity, we have similar data that very single-digit percentage of our ecosystem is actually having indigenous cybersecurity companies or products, and that's the space which we are also working towards. And one challenge that I can speak from the industry is obviously the risk capital, right? And when you are doing this, we need that kind of risk capital which is for long term. I'm sure, Mr. Rao, you have any thoughts on that because you come from the other side of the house. Of course, L&T is a large institution. You have other constraints being a publicly listed company. But your thoughts will be very interesting to what Mr. Shankaran just brought out. How could industry, kind of fully leverage the opportunity that is at hand, which I feel is a once in a lifetime opportunity to, especially with the Viksit Bharat, and I don't think we can get there to Viksit Bharat without doing all this indigenously. Yeah. Your thoughts?
Speaking from
Speaking from Tata Advanced Systems point of view, we have moved, like the technology always moves from lab to shop floor. We worked with R&D, then we have moved to industry, that is TASL. So here the question comes on the investment. Okay, so it's always which is first when even the OEMs, when they go to an organization, they seeing our capability, they say that you need to make these parts. Now you are doing this, you need to go to a complex parts. But that complex parts, again, if I have to move, like in composites, we have hand layup, I have to move to technologies like AFP, automatic fiber placement, or ATL, or an RTM, which is again an investment. So TASL is known for making aerostructures for metallics. Like, we are also into now making C295, which we are just going to, which happened, the first flight has just happened. But in coming into composites, it's a different ballgame. Composites is a huge investment in terms of the technology you need to go forward. So again, it's like we should have the technology, or we should need to have the capex and the equipments. And the facility, and then we need to approach customer for the business for those complex parts. Should say, it's always a challenge which even the OEMs like Airbus and Boeing took a long term to establish that. So here we can say on the complex parts like the fin, rudder, and the centrifugal parts, we got the technology from NAL. They worked closely with us. Our technicians got trained. And then the tooling, the process, everything was developed. Now we have moved, from almost to IOC to FOC to Mark 1A production. We are into production mode now, which we had already delivered about 60 to 70 sets of aircraft so far. Sure. So now the confidence is there. Now we can. So now the confidence is there. Now we can approach our leadership that yes, we need to go for this technology. So I think the confidence from engineering point of view, and at the same time the leadership also has to believe in us. Sure. That's how we can take it forward.
Probably open it up for the audience, but before that, Dr. Abhay, do you want to quickly comment? Maybe for the audience, if you just want to, any questions, you can just note it down, and after Dr. Abhay, we'll probably open up.
Yeah, so I believe, and I think both other panel speakers have already said many things which are relevant. So firstly, I would say that basically we need to get this story going in the right direction. So first thing is, of course, to make our visions match the industry, R&D and labs and the academia. And that will create an aggregation of demand which can then result in return on investment. So that pathway has to be made very clear. Probably some level of top-down, some level of bottom-up, both have to work. There are two slogans going forward for Atmanirbharta. One is Make in India, the other is Made in India. So all of us here are indigenous people in that sense, so we like indigenization. So for us, more than probably industry is tuned towards Make in India, but for us, research institutions, academia, it is more of Made in India. So both have to work for the benefit. In the long run, it has to be made in India. There is no question about it, given the fact that Atmanirbharta is important, because otherwise your autonomy is being questioned at every level. So both have to work. So we have to figure out new ways of working. And we have examples of LCA or even in ISRO how the ecosystem has been developed. We now have civil aviation programs as other examples which we were looking for in terms of how that top-down approach will help. But we are also now getting into the drone space, because we have become the multi-stage integrator, where at design stage, manufacturing stage, testing stage, on ground or in the air, or certification stage, CSRNAL will be one of the enabling agencies through the NRF. So in that sense, the whole of government is also becoming apparent that we are not just working for aerospace, but for the entire ecosystem. And we are partnering with other DRDO labs. ISRO, for example, we work for them, but we also look to them for certain technology. So all of that has to happen, and we are working broadly towards that. And lastly, I would simply say that India is a data-rich country. We are 1.4 billion, so we need not worry about data. It's just the exploitation. So AI and all that, it's very natural for us to look for those in the future.
Sure.
Whether it's additive manufacturing, artificial intelligence, or digitization, all of this is a natural fit for a country like ours, given the scale and scope of the problems we face. So the problems are already there. How we deploy and what mechanism we find is really the purpose of this entire event.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Great point. In fact, I can speak for the industry and being 2 cents in both UPI and Aadhaar. As industry, we are more than welcome to ride on the, UPI is a classic case of how government push can, accelerate all the innovation that is happening. And I'm very heartening to note that both Dr. Abhay as well as Mr. Shankaran spoke extensively about, a welcoming private industry to rise up. And risk capital, and one thing that I can speak for the country and the industry, is there are a lot of companies wanting to take that plunge, Mr. Shankaran. I'm sure they have heard you loud and clear that there are multiple areas where they can actually contribute and make in India and made in India both. So if there's any questions from the audience, we'll be happy to take maybe a couple of questions. If you can just raise your hand. Any questions from the audience? Yeah. All right. If isn't any, back to you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Hello. Sustainable growth in aerospace can be achieved only through strong partnerships, shared expertise, and a collective commitment towards technological excellence and self-reliance. I extend my sincere gratitude to Mr. Darshan Shantamurthy for graciously stepping in to moderate this panel discussion. Thank you, sir. I also extend my heartfelt thanks to our esteemed panelists, Dr. Abhay Pashilkar, Mr. M. Sankaran, and startups and industry for advancing aerospace technologies in India. Thank you, one and all. We'll meet in the next session, please.
A warm good afternoon to speakers, delegates, participants, and students. It's my privilege and pleasure to welcome you all to Session 3 of RISE Conclave 2026, themed Building the Next Generation Startup in Aerospace. India stands at an exciting point in its innovation journey. Over the last decade, the country has evolved from a startup movement into a vibrant innovation economy, with entrepreneurs emerging not only from major metropolitan cities, but also from Tier 2, Tier 3 cities across the country. The success of startup in drone space technology and aerospace manufacturing reflects India's transition from a predominantly service-led economy to one increasingly driven by engineering excellence, innovation, advanced technologies. As India seeks to strengthen its position in strategic sector, the focus is increasingly on building globally compete deep tech enterprises. With this backdrop, today's session will explore a critical question: how can India create the talent, capital, research, and industry partnership needed to build the next generation of aerospace and deep tech startup? To help us navigate this important discussion, we are joined by an esteemed group of leaders, innovators, investors, entrepreneurs who are shaping the future of India's aerospace ecosystem. I extend a very warm welcome to our distinguished keynote speaker, Mr. Manoj Kumar, founder and chairman of Social Alpha, one of India's leading venture development
Millions of components around the globe and supplied to Toyota in the Japan, to Ford in the US, to Mahindra and Tata in India, and the Volkswagen and the Mercedes in Germany. We want these products to be ideal. The same way, right? And we talk about PPM accuracies, and we don't want creativity at that last step. But we need creativity, a lot of them at the early step, right? And then now the question is, how do you marry them? How do you bring this journey together? And that's where I personally think there are two important blocks. One is that block that does the translational work, wherein you take research, identify that would be very relevant and interesting and making sense, maturing the technology to a point where it can be introduced, brought in, integrated, whatever verbs you want to use, into a product, right? And then there is this phase where you take this mature technology and build a product or a solution out of it, wherein this is something that really works in the field, in the dust, in the sun, in the harsh conditions of temperature, whatever they are, and finally also the very creative user that will use this technology or product or solution, right? And he might have his own ways, much beyond than what the engineers would have imagined many times, right? To build a product to make that work. And you need these blocks coming together, right? And while I said these are these 4 blocks, now okay, create 4 departments, let's try to bring them together. It never works this way. And in my experience, as I said, I had the unique opportunity to lead many of these teams in these sectors. And believe me, these worlds struggle to come together. And friction is built into it, in my view, by design in a way, if you want to call it that way. You don't want friction, but that's the way it is. Because these parts of the chain are built to have unique capabilities. So you need different kind of people, cultures, process, mechanisms, whatever they are. And when they come together, friction is inevitable. You can't avoid it. That's where the importance of building bridges comes in my view. Right? That's where platforms like RISE, and like you already said, I see this as where the research is a fuel, and I see it like the 4 stages of a rocket. Wherein, and I'm sitting in the street where literally people build and send rockets to space, right? And be planes to rockets. So I see research as a fuel. The industry for me in RISE is that big engine that propels us somewhere, and startups are those ignition that really, or the spearhead, if you want to take that analogy, which really makes that breakthrough, takes that
as केबल रिमूव नहीं कर रहा मैं केबल किसकी है रिमूव कर
So,